Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon. This video is for, well, noon Arizona, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka, done. I am proud to be sponsored. If you need a therapist, I am proud to be sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp with a P. BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. I will put that down into the description so you can find it. They are an online counseling service, so they get you counselors that are online. You can do telehealth with them. They are international. So if you are in the UK, where I know there is a ridiculously long waiting period to get into counselors there. If you're in the UK, if you're in Italy, France, any of those countries, they're international. You can go on there, fill out the information. They'll put you with a therapist that's here in the States. Of course, there's going to be a time difference, so you're going to have to work that out with the therapist. But also, if you are in a rural area here in the U.S., you don't like the therapist that's in your town, you don't want to have to drive 3 hours to go to a major city, get onto BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez, and they will pair you with a licensed professional counselor in your state. All of the counselors are master's level or above, PhD, and if you don't like them, you can just go back on and say, hey, don't like the therapist, and you'll fill out some more questions, and then they'll pair you with somebody else. So there we go. BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. That'll be down in the description. All right, so today's topic. So there's a bunch of them. There's a whole bunch of questions that people had. Can you explain cognitive dissonance? So cognitive dissonance is... it's when incoming information does not match what the person is experiencing or knowing. So in other words, a great example is when somebody tries to help somebody who is being abused and they say, look, this person is abusive. They're isolating you. They're doing this, they're doing that. Well, the person literally digs their heels in and goes, no, 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 that's not true. They love me, you know, and meanwhile, their brain is fizzing like Mount Etna. I don't know if you've seen Mount Etna recently. It's kind of scary. I'm glad I don't live over there. But anyway, it is fizzing like a volcano. It is just like, what do you mean? No, that can't be true. And so it's like incoming information doesn't match what they want to believe. Incoming information doesn't match what they're experiencing. It's a mind mess is what it is. So abusers will gaslight, rewrite history. They'll literally be beating the person up, and at the same time that they're beating them up, going, this isn't happening, this isn't real, this isn't. And it does mess with the target of abuse's brain because they're literally being told one thing, but meanwhile, something else is happening, and their inner child is so desperate to have that abuser love them. You know, my picker can't be broken. No, 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 it can't be broken, but it is. And family and friends try to tell the target of abuse this, and what will happen is the person will either forget having the conversation with the family member or the friend because it doesn't match what the inner child is wishing to be true, or it doesn't match, you know, it's like the reality of it is just too much, and they're just like, no, 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 no. It's like abuse amnesia kind of as well. It's like they'll forget having entire conversations with family members, with therapists, with friends, you know, because they're hearing something that they don't want to hear, and they're getting information that is contradictory to what they wish or what they want. So it's a lot of magic thinking is happening as well. And so if it doesn't match, they are not going to, you know, listen. They're not going to be able to, it's like it's like the fog. It's like fear, obligation, and guilt. So cognitive dissonance is when things don't match in the person's head. They can't make sense of it. It's like, here's reality. Here's what their abuser is telling them. You know, they're on two different, literally, planes of existence. They want the abuser to be kind and gentle and loving and caring and all of that, but they're not. Family and friends are telling them they're not. And they just can't cope with it. And so they kick out the information that doesn't go with what the abuser is telling them. They would rather believe the abuser who is lying to them than the family, the friends, the therapist that is like, get out, save yourself, get out of this situation. And that generally does not resolve until the amount of evidence is so ginormous that they can no longer ignore it, basically. So it's kind of like when the abuser does something so completely unforgivable and so completely heinous is generally when they finally start allowing themselves to take a look at the mountain of evidence contradicting what the abuser is telling them. Or sometimes they don't snap out of it. They stay in the cognitive dissonance and they don't ever resolve or work it through or figure out that the abuser is no bueno. I mean, it's kind of like, how do I explain this? It's kind of like an addiction. You know, it's a matter of numbers. It's like some people, you know, have a bad experience and they stop drinking completely. They're like, oh, that's enough. I don't need to do this. And they don't relapse and they don't have a problem with it. Other people relapse continuously, eventually figure it out, and eventually are able to get clean and sober and stop drinking. Other people, though, they go through, you know, and they just relapse, and they go through their entire life just relapsing and never get clean and sober. You know, it's a matter of thirds, basically. So, yeah, some people don't snap out of it. Some people are so invested in the ego and so invested in the no, my picker can't be wrong. My picker can't be wrong. It can't be wrong. I couldn't possibly have done this again. Well, if it walks like a narcissistic duck and quacks like a narcissistic duck and takes doo-doos like a narcissistic duck, you can probably bet that your picker picked somebody just like mom or dad. So, but that's hard for them to accept. And that's where the cognitive dissonance comes in. Denial plays into that. Magic thinking plays into that. So it's kind of like, you know, here's reality. Here's what they want to believe. Not on the same level. And they can't make the connection. They can't make the leap to go, maybe I was wrong. You know, maybe my abuser is lying to me. They can't do that because the cognitive dissonance is so crazy. And like I said, the abuse amnesia comes into play. So let's say a family member or a friend, you know, sits them down and finally gets them alone and says, look, this is what we see happening. We see the abuser doing this, and this. And they'll listen, oh yeah, you're right. And then 2 weeks later, you know, they'll call the person and go, hey, weren't we supposed to go out to dinner 2 weeks ago? That's cognitive dissonance. That's amnesia. That's abuse amnesia. They cannot cope with incoming information that does not support the abuser. That's PTSD. It's inner child stuff. It's scary. It's scary because healthy, normal people are able to take in information, and when the information doesn't jibe, you generally get curious and you go, okay, what does this mean? You know, where's the truth in here? The truth is out there. Let's go find it, you know? So, but with cognitive dissonance, you want to believe the abuser and you ignore, you know, what's going on. You have amnesia about actually having had a conversation about leaving the abuser because it doesn't match what the inner child wants. And the inner child just desperately wants to be loved. And especially when you think about it, we tend to play out the most difficult relationship in our family with romantic partners. So if we had mom, dad, caregivers, whoever they are, that were hard to get along with, difficult, toxic, abusive, whatever, alcoholic, drug addict, etc., the little kid inside goes, oh, this person over here. Oh, okay, they kind of remind me of that person. You know what? If I can make that person love me, I proved the original wound wrong. So half of a doo-doo sandwich, half of a doo-doo sandwich, total doo-doo sandwich. But somebody who's got a lot of cognitive dissonance is not able to bridge that gap and see the connection between the two because they're desperately wanting the magic thinking to be correct. So it's like, here's reality, here's the magic thinking, not even on the same plane, and they're unable to bridge that gap. So that is cognitive dissonance. And that is why it is so difficult to work with somebody who is currently in an abusive relationship unless and until they've gotten to that point where they're like, this is painful. I don't like it. And I want out, or I need answers. That's really just like with an addict, because think about it, with the intermittent positive rewards, just like with drugs, you know, sometimes it feels great, most of the time it feels like crap, but sometimes it feels great, and that's why they keep going back. Hello, you know, it's an addiction. It is. Not an addiction to the abuse. I want to make that perfectly clear. It's an addiction to the times when the abuser is kind. It's an addiction to those times when the abuser is that quote unquote good parent or good lover or whatever. Okay. And so we get addicted to those moments, intermittent positive rewards, just like you train a dog. You don't always give the dog a treat. Every third or fourth time you give him a treat, and eventually the dog will sit without you even giving it a treat. All you have to do is say sit, or you give the hand command and they just sit, you know? So it's the same thing, intermittent positive rewards. So if you're in a relationship where sometimes it's great and other times it's terrible, and then sometimes it's great and other times it's terrible, you want to take a look at that, because that's not normal. Healthy, normal relationships kind of do this, okay? Pretty even. I mean, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have good days, but it's not going to be like rocket out into space and then drop down to the center of the earth. So if that's what's going on, whew, Houston, you might want to take a look at that problem. So yeah, there is that. Okay, talk more about family roles. All right. Abusive families cannot allow people to just be their own selves. They can't. It's like in a healthy family, the parents don't have predetermined roles for all the kids. They haven't decided whose job is what in the family. In an unhealthy family, children have roles assigned to them. The saddest role that a child can have assigned to them is, I'm having you to save my marriage. Your job is to keep us together. And that's what people do. They're in an unhealthy relationship and they go, I know, I'll have a child to keep us together. And then of course it doesn't work. And then who gets blamed for the relationship breaking up? The kid. You know, it's not the kid's fault. The kid did not sign up for this. Unless, of course, you believe in reincarnation and all that stuff, but that's a completely different topic. So the point being that I'm trying to make here is that kids should not be assigned roles. Kids are kids. Let them be kids. Let them be who they are. Let them explore. Let them figure it out. In unhealthy families, why am I hearing buzzing? Where's my other phone? I have no idea. I'll get it later. In unhealthy families, the kids have all got roles. So there's the scapegoat, the one that everybody picks on, the one that it's all their fault, right? Anything goes wrong, it's their fault. Then you've got the golden child, opposite of the scapegoat, okay? They can do no wrong. Mom and dad love them, hold them up to everybody. Why can't you be more like the golden child, right? There's usually the ignored middle child, doesn't get enough attention, you know? The black sheep of the family can't be good enough to be the golden child, can't be bad enough to be the scapegoat. So they're kind of stuck in the middle and they don't get paid attention to. Second mom, second dad. So these are usually older children who are forced to take care of the younger kids. And at a ridiculously young age, usually, you know, that kind of responsibility, taking care of a small baby, is not to be taken on lightly. So second mom, second dad. In really dysfunctional families, you have second husband, second wife, which is where we're talking now about emotional incest and actual incest. So yeah, so there's a whole bunch of really unhealthy family roles that abusers put their kids into. Why do they do this? Because they can't cope with people having differing opinions than them. Absolutely. Anybody who cannot stand somebody else's differing opinion, who just will not leave it lie, is disordered. They've got either malignant borderline or they've got malignant narcissism. These two, cluster Bs, cannot stand differing opinions. So let's say you've got the kid who's the black sheep or the scapegoat. Okay, so the scapegoat of the family comes in and decides that they don't like meatloaf, or they do like meatloaf, but the narcissist does, you know, has the opposite opinion, right? So instead of just going, okay, kid, that's fine. Not everybody in the world likes meatloaf. You don't have to eat it if you don't want to. The narcissist will just, why don't you like it? But why don't you? And the malignant borderline does this too. Why? No, you have to like it because I like it. Or you have to think this way because I think this way. They cannot handle differing opinions on anything, even as something as simple as meatloaf. You know, I'm not going to make somebody eat meatloaf if they don't like it. They have a right to not like it, you know? So I personally love meatloaf myself, but I like my own cooking, so there you go. But I mean, that's just kind of why they put the kids into these slots, and the kids are expected to not break out of those roles, and they're not expected to switch them around unless, caveat, the abuser does it themselves. So what the abuser will do is they will, like I was talking about earlier this week with writing people into and out of wills, the golden child could switch around. Whoever is dancing to the tune that week is the golden child. And then the person who opposed them, the person who didn't like the meatloaf, is now the scapegoat. Do you see where I'm going? So it's like if they change the roles, then it's perfectly okay. But God forbid the kids try to break out of those roles themselves, because you can't, because the abuser will make sure to shove you back in there. So, obviously and honestly, abusers know when a kid is smart. And generally that is the kid that they target the hardest because they're threatened by them. So if the scapegoat tries to break out of it and the scapegoat is, smart and sees things, gets it, they're going to try to wear them down so that they don't see it and they can't get out and that they don't ever make it in life, because they know, the abuser knows that this particular person is smart, and is capable of doing great things, and they don't want that to happen. How dare they outshine me? So whichever kid they're targeting the hardest, I'll bet you that kid has got a lot going on for them that the abuser is threatened by, like nobody's business. So that is why there are quote unquote family roles, because the abusers can't cope with differing opinions. The abusers can't cope with kids being normal kids. The abusers can't cope with somebody outshining them. They can't, so they've got to put them in those roles, and then they create competition. So remember, with an abuser, whether it's a malignant narcissist or a malignant borderline, it's all about the competition. It is all about the competition. Let me just say that again. It is all about the competition. They put the kids against each other. They pit them against each other. Divide and conquer. If the kids keep fighting amongst themselves, nobody's taking a look at who is stirring the pot, and that would be the abuser. So that is why they put kids in these roles, second mom, second dad. Okay, those two are too busy raising the little kids to even think about themselves. So they can't even think about getting out. And remember, abusers do one of two things. They either want to kick the kids out as soon as they turn 18, and believe me, they would do it a lot sooner if they could legally get away with it, or they want to keep the kids so hobbled emotionally that they never leave. They do one of two things. So second mom, second dad, so hobbled, they're so busy trying to raise all these other kids that the narcissist or the borderline is ignoring, and I'm talking malignant here, that they're ignoring, they're not taking care of, they're not raising these two or this one is trying to make sure that everybody's okay and getting enough food and getting dressed and going to school and getting their homework done, and because if they don't, they get punished. So that keeps them too busy. Then if you've got the abuser also pitting two kids against each other, so like competition, golden child and scapegoat, right? Then, it's, why can't you be more like your brother? Why can't you be more like your sister? Well, then this person has got resentment now towards this kid, and it has nothing to do with the kid. It has to do with the parent that would do that. Only dysfunctional, messed up parents do stuff like that. So divide and conquer. Keep them fighting. Keep them fighting. Keep them fighting. Make sure that there's no room to take a look at what the abuser is or what the abuser is doing, or to consider getting out, planning an escape out. So that's why they do that. That's why there's family roles. In healthy, normal families, that doesn't happen. The kid is the kid. There's no golden child. There's no scapegoat. There's no black sheep. There's no middle child. There's no second parent. No, none of that. None of that. It's not the kid's job to save the marriage. None of that. That is all completely messed up and dysfunctional. So that's why they do it, though, is because it creates drama. It keeps the family divided and conquered, and it keeps the eyes off of what the abuser is doing, and it prevents the talented kids, the smart kids, the kids that can see the dysfunction from leaving, from really just going, oh, this is messed up, I'm out of here, especially if they're trying to infantilize them, and especially if they're trying to keep them with them and make them take care of them. Oh, I really dislike families that do that. Okay, so narcissism versus self-esteem. So a lot of people, when I start talking to them about self-esteem, they don't get that it's okay to like yourself. So, and why? Because a lot of dysfunctional families have told kids that if you say something nice about yourself, you're arrogant. And especially this comes usually from a narcissist, so isn't that interesting? So, you know, you're arrogant, you're narcissistic, you're haughty, you're, you know, how dare you? You need to have humility, blah, 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 blah. Well, there's a huge difference between having humility and abusing yourself, okay? So, narcissism is when you have to go outside of yourself and get your esteem from others. That's narcissism. It really is. Let's just boil it all down. Instead of being able to sit in your own power and be able to go, yeah, I like myself. Yeah, this is okay. I'm all right. This is good. I'm happy. It's all good. Narcissists are never happy. They are not self-fulfilled. They don't enjoy their own company. They basically hate themselves. They basically hate everybody else. And people are looked at like objects. So people are nothing more than this pen to be used. So what they do is they get their esteem from others. So it's other esteem. They have to have other people telling them that they're good. This is why in one of the criteria in the DSM is that it's excessive need for admiration. Excessive need for admiration. You know, tell me I'm good. Tell me I'm good. Tell me how great I am. Tell me how great this thing I did is. Tell me how great this is. Tell me how, you know, instead of just sitting back and going, yeah, I did that. And I'm happy. I'm going to go for a walk now. You know, instead of doing that, they're like, tell me. So it's constantly looking outside and looking for others to tell them that they are okay. They need that constant reassurance that they are okay. Self-esteem, however, is the cheerleader inside your head, not the inner critic, the inner cheerleader. And the inner cheerleader is kind, it's gentle, it's nice, and it just says, hey, good morning, I like you, have a good day. You're going to be awesome. You know, it's just a nice little voice inside your head, and it just sustains you throughout the day. And even when things go sideways, you're just kind of like, oh, okay, it went sideways. What could I have done differently? Oh, okay, well, I'll do that. Okay, forgive myself, move on. You know, it's nice, it's kind, it's gentle. That's why, and it's funny because narcissists start picking on people who start working on their self-esteem because they're threatened by it, because they can't do it. They can't do it. They can't. They don't have that empathy cog, and they also don't have that kindness cog. Many of them, especially when they've slid down to the dark triad, which is narcissism, Machiavellianism, which is control freak, okay, and psychopath, right? They're also very sadistic, and they can't. It is not in their nature to be kind. It is not in their nature to say nice things, not to themselves, not to other people. So, self-esteem is just the quiet little voice inside your head. Hi, good to see you. Have a great day. I give you permission to like yourself. Good job. Talk to you later. And then you go about your day and you give yourself your own little boosts, but you're always kind. And it's never about putting somebody else down. That's narcissism. It's never about other people. That's narcissism. So narcissists are about other people, other esteem, getting stuff, using people like a pen. Self-esteem is just affirming you as a child of the universe that you're good and you like yourself and it's okay and have a great day. And I'll talk to you later. That's self-esteem. That is self-esteem. It's just that kind inner parent that we should have all had growing up. Some of us didn't, and we have to kind of do it ourselves. So this is like learning how to talk to ourselves kindly the way a good parent would. That's self-esteem. Other esteem, narcissism is, tell me I'm great, tell me I'm great, tell me I'm great, tell me I'm great. Other esteem, other esteem. This is just us telling us that we're okay and we like ourselves. So that is the difference between NPD and self-esteem. Now, a lot of the guilt and shame comes up because oftentimes we've been made wrong for saying nice things about ourselves. Oh, you're arrogant, you're this, you're that. Wait a minute. Are they talking about themselves? Oh, look at that projection. Ooh, damn, y'all talking about yourself again, aren't you? Yeah. So consider the source. Consider the source. Who is putting you down for being kind to you? Not, tooting your own horn. That's narcissism, but just being kind to yourself. Forgiving yourself, loving yourself, moving forward, growing, changing. Who's making you wrong for that? I'll bet you dollars to donuts it's somebody who's amazingly threatened by that because they cannot do it themselves. So anyway, I hope that answers those questions. I can't remember what the topic is next week. Oh, no, I remember now. It is, why do abusers, narcissists, malignant borderlines, why don't they go get help? And why doesn't the help stick? So how am I going to name that? It's probably going to be along the lines of, why not get help? Why not get help? And I'm going to explain why. I'm also wanting to talk about next week why you never, ever want to go to couples therapy or family therapy with a known abuser, because it's not safe, and we're going to talk about why. So why don't they get help? That's going to be next week's topic. That's it. So again, I want to say thank you to my sponsor, which is betterhelp.com, BETTERHELP, betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys on Sunday. Bye.